any videos, so I thought I'd just give you guys a little update of what I've been up to lately, and yeah, show you what I'm working on right now. I have been making some knives and stuff, and I just finished making one knife, and that was for another client of mine. It was his birthday present, so I thought, or Father's Day present, so I thought I'd give that to him. And this one is for one of my buddies. He requested that I ordered him a knife, and I'm in the finishing stages of sanding and prepping it. It is a gut hook. You can't tell because of the tape on there. The handle's made of cherry wood, and yeah, so I'm just doing the final stages of sanding. What I usually do for all my knives is to do the rounding and shaping. I start off with 150 grit, and then I work my way up to 240, and then 320, and finally 400, and then put a coat of tung oil on it. Let it sit till it starts to get tacky, then I wipe it off. Put another coat on, let that sit till it gets tacky, and so forth. But before I put the tung oil on, I usually give it a slight buffing with some steel wool, and after I'm done putting the tung oil and after it's dried, I put on I just take an old cotton t-shirt and wipe that down so it gives it a little shine. But what I'm doing right now is I'm just rounding it off so it feels good in the hand. Right now it's pretty rounded. Just the final parts of rounding it, just so it feels perfect in the hand. Making sure of that. And I kind of jerry-rigged the pins because the Corby bolts that they gave me, one of them, the female was longer than the male, and the male part had to go in, but on my scales I would have to get them super thin, almost like that thin, to get it to just go into the first little notch. So what I did was I found an old screw that would fit the female slot, and I chopped it in half, and then I screwed it on there, but it's a little thinner than what it's supposed to be. But I kind of sanded them down so they look about the same. So I'm going to keep sanding, and then I'll show you. I usually take about an hour per grit, so an hour on the 150, hour on the 240, 320, and so forth. And then I'll show you the final sanding of the 400 grit. Then I will show you me putting the tung oil on and how I take it off and apply it. So stay tuned. Okay, we're back. I'm just doing the final sanding with the 400 grit on Logan's knife. So let me do this, and then I will show you how I apply my tung oil finish. So stay tuned, and I'll show you how I do my sanding. Okay, so I've been doing this for about an hour with the 400 grit. So I'm just going over it one last time to make sure I got every crack and crevice with it. So there we go. Now, I just want to kind of try to get as much of the sawdust off of this, because you really don't want a bunch of that crap stuck in all these little crevices, because then the tung oil, it doesn't reach its full potential when it does that. So I'm just trying to knock all the sawdust out of it as much as I possibly can, out of all these every little part. Now, let me walk over here and grab my steel wool. So I take my steel wool, and I take my knife, and I just run over the knife with the steel wool. And I just keep doing this, because it kind of gives it a little buffing before I put on the tung oil. And it brings out the graining in the wood really nicely too. So I'm just going to do this for a few minutes, and then grab the tung oil and my rag, and I will show you how I apply the finish. Stay tuned. Alright, so now that we have buffed our knife with the steel wool, there's going to be these little hairs. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to tell, but there's these little hairs stuck all in the sides of where the wood and the metal meet. So you probably can't tell, but they're there. So what you're going to do is just run your finger along it and wipe all that away. And eventually they will work themselves out. So you're just going to want to look real closely at it, and make sure that there aren't any of those little steel wool particles. And then blow out all of your sawdust and all that gunk, because you don't want that in there, as I mentioned before. But now, we're going to take our rag. If it's a little crumbly or crisp from the last time that I used the tung oil, so I'm just going to work that and break up all the little fibers in it so that it's soft again. This is the clean side that at the end you wipe it down with. But right now, I'm going to open this, if I can with one. Let me grab one of these screwdrivers real quick. Pop this open because I don't have any fingernails. So, pop that open. And from the last time that we used it, there's just a little bit of gunk in there. Throw that down there. Alright, so now, this is my favorite part, the transformation process. Now on this first coat, don't be skimpy. You're going to want to put quite a bit on this rag here. So, let me get that all on there so the rag soaks it up. See how much I put on? Now I'm going to take the knife. Oh yeah. Put that on there. You're going to want a thick coat on for the first coat. Make sure you get everywhere. Down in that little spot right next to the blade, the bottom, finger part. Now that really soaked it all up. So put that big huge coat on. And then we stick it in the vise. Let it sit for about, I'd say 15 minutes or so, until it starts to get tacky. Wipe it off. Put another coat on. So, we'll show you putting all the coats on, and stay tuned as I've said before. Okay, it actually got tacky a lot faster than I thought it would have. So I'm just going to take a soft paper towel and wipe all the excess off. Then I'm going to take our tongue oil and our rag. I'm going to apply some more. Now, I believe I forgot to mention that tongue oil has one hell of a stench. So, just to say I warned you. So I'm going to apply this second coat. Once again, very thick. Wait for it to tack up. I'm actually going to make sure I got everything. Get the insides. Stick that in the vise. Let her tack up. Then come back and put on another coat if it's needed.